Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on demand care for common ailments such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org. Idaho is a big state and it covers a lot of territory. Idaho Matters wants to take you to every corner of the Gem State by visiting all 44 counties. And we need your help to do that. Email us your story ideas at idahomatters@boisestate.edu for our new series we're calling Idaho 44. And be sure to join us each weekday at noon and 8 on Idaho Matters and travel the state with us. From the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Gemma Cadet. More Idaho Matters right now. Okay, think Pretty Woman meets Maid in Manhattan, and you've got New York Times bestselling author Lynn Painter's new book, Made for Each Other. Lynn is joining us now to talk more about her latest novel, which I have to tell you, I think is quite charming, very funny, and I literally read it in about a day. So, Lynn, really great to have you on the program.
Thank you so much for having me, and I can't believe you read it so fast.
It was delightful. So, for folks who haven't had the opportunity to read it, give us a quick synopsis of the book.
The book is about our main character. It's absolutely like my homage to Pretty Woman. Like, I grew up in the aughts of rom-coms, and that was one of my favorites. And our main character, she has kind of a minor infestation at her not great apartment. And since she cleans penthouses overnight as her side hustle in college, she decides, what can it hurt? I know the person who lives here is out of the country for the month, so I'm just going to sleep in his apartment overnight. No one will know. And she wakes up in the morning and comes out to the kitchen, and there is a couple there who seem to not be surprised to see her and also know her name. She kind of, gets out of there without getting arrested. And what turns out happening is that the very wealthy gentleman who lives there, his parents were there, and he has kind of made up that he has a girlfriend for reasons to get everybody off of his back, and happened to name her Abby, and our main character is Abby. And so they both decide to kind of roll with it because, it's a rom-com. There's very good reasons to pretend you're in a relationship when you are not. So it is that's a very good comparison. It is kind of Pretty Woman meets Maid in Manhattan.
It really is. And what I'm curious about is that you write a lot of young adult novels. I mean, in fact, you have been on the New York Times best-selling young adult list for more than 2 years. And you've interspersed this with writing more adult rom-coms as well. What made you decide to write for an adult audience too?
It's really funny the way life works, because for years, the more than 10 years where I tried to make writing happen, tried to get an agent and get a book deal and was just continuously rejected, I was trying to get adult romance published. And then I read a John Green book, and I was like, this voice, this teen space just feels comfortable. Like, I feel like maybe I should try writing this. And then the first young adult novel I wrote, I ended up getting an agent. That didn't end up selling, but I got an agent, and so I started writing young adult. So life kind of made young adult happen first for me, but I grew up loving adult rom-com. So I feel like I completely I benefited, like I'm so happy that I discovered it this way, because young adult has absolutely become my favorite, even though that wasn't what I was working on getting for a lot of years. So I started with young adult, and then during the pandemic, my agent just sort of said, like, contractually, you don't really have any other space. You're kind of booked up for the next few years in young adult. Maybe since you're just sitting here right now, you should try writing an adult rom-com. And then I wrote Mr. Wrong Number and got a book deal for that. And then we're off to the races.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you have 5 children. So I'm assuming you know a little bit about teenage angst. So did that kind of help writing in the young adult genre?
Absolutely. Like my oldest 4 are all in their 20s now. And then I have a 9-year-old, because we obviously have no idea what we're doing. Um, but for when I was writing this, especially, I was surrounded by teenagers all the time. And I think that you don't even realize a lot of times as a parent that their language and attitudes just sort of
Oh.
seep in until you hear yourself say something ridiculous. You're like, yeah, fam. And then you're like, did I just say fam? What is happening
Mhm.
to me? Like it's sucking my brain out. And, I just I fell in love with writing for teenagers. And I think part of it too isn't necessarily, I'm not an author who's like, I would like to write for teens and this is what teens should read. It's more so that I love rom-coms and like 10 Things I Hate About You. I love rom-coms set in high school. Like I think it's just fun. So it's just sort of that's kind of the driving force behind it all.
Well, I have to admit, I love rom-coms as well, and I'm right there with you. Loved Pretty Woman. Love that whole genre. And so when I find an author that writes in that vein, I devour what they write. And I have to tell you that after I read Maid in Manhattan, I was like, what else has she written? And I went out and I got Happily Never After. I got Accidentally Amy. And I love your rom-coms. They're just, they really do take me back to those movies, right? Of the late 90s, early 2000s. Um, because I don't know, there was a time where just rom-coms were done really well. So I'm curious about how much that does play into your writing. Do you consciously think about it, or does it just kind of naturally happen when you sit down and start writing?
I feel like for the most part, it happens naturally. Like I grew up with a mother who was obsessed with rom-coms, like old school. Like I watched Rock Hudson, Doris Day movies growing up, and Cary Grant, bringing up Baby with Cat, and so I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
always my whole life, my mom was driving me towards not just romance, but the madcap sort of silliness. Like I feel like I love the rom-coms and the aughts and the 90s did this so beautifully that intertwined silliness and cringe with the romance. So you go through
Yeah.
the whole arc of everything going wrong before you get the happy ending. Gary Marshall was just a genius, Nora Ephron. And so I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of it is ingrained in me because I grew up on it, always watching it. But it does help me sometimes when I get stuck where you're like, why isn't this working? My brain will sort of be like, think about the movies, Lynn. Think about the rom-com part of it. Because sometimes you get too tied up in the story arc of the romance or something, and then you're like,
Mm.
it's a rom-com, Lynn, and then I sort of fall back in line.
Well, I have to tell you, I love that your mom, that's what you grew up on. So I grew up on All My Children. I think I knew who
Oh my
Erica
gosh.
Kane was, but like when I was 4, right? That
Okay.
that's what my mom watched.
I am so glad you said that because this is so funny to me. Our moms would like each other. Um, my sister and I laugh all the time because I always say on book panels, I can't really attribute it to soap operas, but my whole childhood, my mom's day was marked 11 o'clock was Young and the
Oh
Restless,
yeah.
12 o'clock was All My Children, 1 o'clock was As the World Turns, 2 o'clock was General Hospital. And like if you were homesick, I'm sure you were the same way, you got to watch those with your mom. And so I grew up watching all of this content I probably shouldn't have been seeing, but I
Oh, a
feel like
hundred
it,
percent.
yes, but it gave me that like that whole tension and will they ever get together and my obsession with that. And I feel like that probably plays into how much I've always loved the pining and the yearning and the angst.
Hmm. I always say that's one of the reasons why I had really bad boyfriends when I was younger because I was you didn't have a good picker for a while there because you were raised on soap operas.
You're like, it works on a soap opera. The mob boss becomes the best husband and father. Why
Right.
isn't this working in real life?
It does not work in real life at all, at all. But I have to say, getting back to your novels, there is that sense. I think maybe that's one of the reasons why I've enjoyed them so much is that yes, it's got those rom-coms, but that pining and that yearning is there, but it's not like that toxic pining and yearning you see in the soap operas.
Yes, yes. I'm not good at serious and I'm not good at sad. So that's what I always say
Yeah.
is, if you're like one of those people where you're like, I just want to bawl my eyes out through a book before the happy ending, I'm probably not your author. My people are going to say stupid things and be ridiculous because I'm just too unserious for that.
But I think there's such a place for that in all seriousness because I think what really drew me, I mean, when I tell you, Lynn, that I literally went to the library and got like all of, I mean, every book available of yours was because there are times where life is so serious and there's so much going in the world right now that I'm like, I just need a book that will just take me away from all of it and that it's just really enjoyable and fun to read. So,
Oh,
there is definitely a place for that.
that makes me so happy because I am such a comfort reread and rewatch person. Like, I will put on reruns of Gilmore Girls or whatever the show is all the time. I've seen it 100 times, but I'll put it on the background or I'll reread my favorite Christina Lauren rom com. Just I know exactly what's going to happen. But you're right. In this world where everything is off the rails, sometimes it's so nice to have that where you're getting the happy ending and it's going to be okay.
Yeah. So I'm curious, how different is it writing a young adult novel versus writing a more adult themed rom com? Is there much difference?
You know what's funny for me? There's not. Like I feel like the process is different for me. Like when I sit down, I don't ever think like this one is for teens and I need to put on my hat to write for teenagers. I think of it like rom-coms and I start out writing essentially the same way. Like this is the main character, this is what she wants, this is the guy or the relationship and here's the rom-com. But it just sort of organically happens because when your main character is 17, then once you start to throw in having to deal with parents and school and
Mm.
curfews and rules, it sort of starts to disseminate and make itself feel different than an adult rom-com. Um, but for me, it's kind of funny because laying down a first draft, I feel like I can write so much faster writing an adult rom-com. Um, the teen rom-com makes me work harder, injecting more emotion and more thought. But I feel like a lot of times I'm prouder of the end product, maybe because I have to work so hard
Oh.
for it. So I really feel fortunate that I'm allowed to write both because they both give me different things that I really love.
Well, I have to tell you, it has been such a delight to talk with you, a delight to read your books. So thank you for taking time for us today.
Thank you so much. This has been so lovely. I feel like sometime we need to just sit and chat about soap operas because I was on the
I
All My
agree.
Children train too. Yes.
I know. Okay. So we'll have to take this offline. Absolutely. We've been talking with author Lynn Painter about her very new novel, Made for Each Other. It is out now. I'm Gemma Gaudette, and this is Idaho Matters.